Hi. Okay, I guess I am ready to talk about the next part of New Egypt. New Egypt is out in the country, which I already went through, and the house itself had a nice sized yard. If you remember the yard in Garfield, it was this tiny little row house backyard, and we had fun in it. We made it work, but here we have a great big backyard, and my stepdad said, we are going to have a pool in that summer. And I'm like, a pool like how our cousins in Clifton have? Like above ground or one in the ground? No, we were having one above ground like my cousins in Clifton. And I was like, oh my God, we're going to have a pool. And I thought that was like a status thing. We have a pool. We're so cool. Have a pool and a color TV. What? That was my criteria for being cool. All right. Plus, I had my own bedroom. This was something new. My brothers were all in the room with me in Garfield. We only had a 2-bedroom place. I was on the top bunk. Jimmy and Scott were on the bottom bunk. They were little enough they could do that. One slept at the foot, one slept at the head. And then Billy was in a stroller, like a big carriage. Like it was one of them full baby buggy carriages. So they got a bedroom, like bunk beds went to Jimmy and Scott, and then they got a little bunky kind of small bed for Billy. And that room was big. They had a big room. So my room was a little smaller, but I actually had a walk-in closet. And it's for me, alone? Man, ooh, yeah. I don't even have any clothes to put on the hangers. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It was my room. That was pretty cool, I gotta say, for that season. Things changed. Okay, so little bit about the church thing. You know, I explored stuff, in Garfield, and now because my head is like, actually, I think it was fragmented. I think that there's probably a word in the DSM-4 book. Is it a 4 now? I don't even know. That would describe my brain, how it just kind of compartmentalized. I could be happy if I didn't think about Garfield. And I started to be able to cope in that way, which probably not a healthy thing to do. But it was the only way I could cope because it was like guillotine. I was chopped off. There was no slow weaning process, or I wasn't allowed to call my dad. I wasn't allowed to call my gram. Because they couldn't know where we were, and I couldn't write letters. So, and plus, if I did make a phone call, or my mom made a phone call, this is back when they had the handsets, and if you called out of your zone or whatever it was a long distance call, and they jerked you, man. Those phone companies robbed you blind for long distance phone calls. It wouldn't be unusual to get, for one phone call, if it went 30 or 40 minutes, to get like an $80 bill. I mean, they get it out of you now by the cost of the phone on the front end, right? And then everything's free. Sure it is. $1,000 for a phone and $70 a month. Sure. Back then, the phone came with you, okay? They came and hooked it up. There was an installation fee. What else? And then long distance, you paid a basic, usage, and they measured all the minutes. It was like by minute. If you called like a little further in South Jersey, or if you called North Jersey, oh my God, you may as well be calling the Pope. So, oh my God, things are so different now. You gotta adjust. I mean, I'm not going, I'm longing for the old days. But, I mean, they get the money out of you one way or the other, right? Either long distance charges or this fancy phone on the front end. You gotta figure, what do you want, what do you don't want? I have a friend here in the Dalles, where I am right now, who still has a flip phone. And we tease the daylights out of him, okay? We tease him so bad. But he says, yeah, but nobody can track me. And everybody goes, So, I mean, it's relative to what you're dealing with, right? So I'm talking about back then. So, really cool thing is that my mom talked about, we're going to get phones in different rooms. Like, she's going to have a phone in her room, and we're going to have one in the kitchen, because it wasn't that much. It was like $14 for the bedroom phone, or they call that a princess phone, which I guess a lot of people would have a problem with nowadays. They would want to call it something else. But that's what it was called. It was this tiny little slender thing, and if you hung it up too hard, it made like a funny sound. Okay, so I didn't go to church. I didn't really think about God much. I think that I was in shock. To tell you the truth, I think I was in shock. And I leaned on my friends heavily that first 4 or 5 months. I really did. Tried to stay out of fights in the city park. I never got in another fight ever. Bark, 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 chicken, chicken, chicken. I stayed so close to my friend Debbie. No, we never got in any fights. And there was no going to the mall. There was no going to the movies. I mean, that was like, Fort Dix was close to us, the big army base. And people were still in Vietnam and coming back from Vietnam. So if you wanted something cool to do, there was a bowling alley in Wrightstown, which was like close to Fort Dix, called Thunderbird Lanes. How do I remember that? Who knows? Anyway, there wasn't much to do except hang with your friends. I mean, it's country life. And that part of my brain would kind of, I don't like it. I don't like it. I'm never going to New York again in my mind. Never, ever am I going to see the Rockettes again. And my heart is grieving because will I ever see my father again? What about my Gram? Am I going to see, what? You know, I couldn't. I know my dad did wrong. He did a lot of bad things. And I'm not talking about the last stunt because that was pretty, for the history books. Literally the history books in Garfield. I'm sorry. All I can tell you is that my father owns part of a bridge in Lodi. Now you're going to buy the book, right? Okay, guys, I'm going to do more. This is at 7 minutes. I'll do another video in a little bit. All right.